Listen, it can't just be about the money. The trick of capitalism is that it's all about the dollar. It's all about the money. But if we're going to have any kind of financial independence, if we're going to have any kind of collective power as a community, it can't just be about the money. Because if it's just about the money, then our relationship becomes transactional. Our interactions become based on a transaction instead of being based on a commonality or a brother and sisterhood. And then when the transaction goes wrong, we fall out. And so it cannot just be about the money. If we're going to truly achieve economic independence, it has to be about more than the money. And the trick of capitalism has made us believe that the pursuit of individual financial success is the end all be all. But that has been to our detriment, because capitalism has allowed us to achieve more millionaires in our community than ever before. But at the same time, capitalism has allowed 85% of our children to not be able to read or write at an acceptable level. Capitalism is what has gotten us $1.5 trillion in spending power, and yet at the same time, the average black family has a net worth of less than $17,000. Capitalism has allowed us to create almost 3 million businesses in our community, but 95% of those businesses are ran by one person, because we all trying to do it alone. We all trying to do it by ourselves. And so it cannot just be about the money. Money is a resource, but it is not the ultimate source. And if we do not develop a standard, if we do not develop a collective mindset, a collective way of thinking of how we interact with one another, of how we treat one another, of the things that we prioritize, if we don't develop that collectively, then we all are gonna continue to be in this individual pursuit of financial success at the detriment of our own community. When it's all about the dollar, you become willing to do anything to get it. That's why we justify selling drugs to our own people. That's why we justify killing our own people, because as long as the dollar's involved, there's no standard. There's no collective morality, right? There's no collective mindset, because we all in pursuit of this dollar. And that's the difference in getting the bag and producing the tree. I say it all the time, right? The bag is nothing but a scheme to get to the fruit. It's a scheme to get to the fruit without any ownership in the tree. It is a short-term mindset that focuses on how fast can I get this money? How fast can I get this bread? How fast, what kind of scheme can I develop to get the fruit, even though I don't own the tree? And the difference is that when you produce the tree, that takes time. It takes longer, right? It takes more effort. It takes more work. But the end result is that you can feed your family forever. Because if you get to the bag and then the bag runs out, guess what? You got to go get another bag. You got to come up with another scheme. You have to figure something else out to get to the fruit. But you still don't have any ownership in the tree. And so we all scheming and plotting, trying to get to the bag, and we're willing to step on one another. We're willing to betray one another for this idea of getting to the bag. But if we instead become willing to produce the tree, we become willing to live in our purpose and to build something that is sustainable for generation after generation, now we're not stepping on each other's toes. Now we're spending our time cultivating the soil, nurturing the ground, planting and watering the tree so that it grows and produces fruit on its own. Now you don't need to get to the bag, because now you own something. Now you have created something that is sustainable for you and your family. That's the kind of mindset that we have to be on. It cannot just be about the money. We have to think bigger than that. We have to think more collectively than that. And the idea of getting to the bag removes morality from your life. It removes a standard from your life and you become willing to do anything in the pursuit of financial success. That's why it's so easy for many of our entertainers to sell their soul, because they trying to get to the bag and they're willing to do anything to anybody in the pursuit of financial success. But at the end of the day, they don't own anything and they don't have peace in their life. But if instead you sacrifice the short-term financial gain, you sacrifice getting to the bag, you sacrifice stepping on the toes of your brothers and sisters, you sacrifice messing over people and betraying people that look just like you just for financial gain, and you have a standard of what you are willing to do because you are living life rooted in your purpose. If instead we have that type of mindset, yeah, it's going to take longer to produce fruit, but you're going to have peace. You're going to have sustainability in your life. And if collectively we do that, that's how we gain financial success. That is how we gain financial independence. That is how we gain enough economic power where we don't need anybody to give us anything. Because as long as we get into the bag, we are dependent upon the person that has produced the tree. We're dependent upon them. And once they find out that we've developed a scheme to get to the bag, now they control us. Now they have something over us. And we don't own anything. And so again, it cannot just be about the money. We have to be able to look past that. We have to be willing to sacrifice the short-term gain for the long-term vision. You have to be willing to do that. You cannot be enticed by what's dangling in front of you. You have to see the long-term vision. That's why I tell people that your purpose is so important. Because if you don't know your purpose, you become willing to do anything just for $1. But when you know your purpose, you know God's original instruction in your life, you create standards around that instruction. It's certain things that you become not willing to do because it's going to get in the way of your purpose. It becomes certain things that you don't get excited by because you know that even if you get it in the short term, it is going to devalue the long-term goal of you building and producing your own tree. And so I spend a lot of my time trying to change the mindset of how we think about money, of how we think about economics, about how we think about how we interact with ourselves, because I could get on here and give you all kinds of investment advice and investment strategies and ideas of how to make money, but it is pointless if we are doing those things with an individual mindset. We are caught up in the trick of capitalism, and we will never gain economic independence as a community. We spend more than anybody else, but we have less to show for it. Our talents, abilities, and gifts are what sustain this economy, and we don't own any of it. And the only way that we're going to do that going forward is if we change our mindset. Don't get the bag, produce the tree. The tree takes time. When you plant a seed and you start to water it, you start to cultivate it, you start to nurture it, before it ever grows up, it has to grow downward. That seed grows down because it has to root itself, it has to plant itself, it has to position itself in the soil and be strong enough for it to be able to then grow upwards. And a lot of times when you start a business, when you pursue an idea, when you pursue your dream, you get negative results in the beginning. You fail in the beginning because that is you rooting yourself in the ground, positioning yourself in the ground in a way to solidify your upward trajectory. But most people quit at the first sign of failure. And so that seed never develops into anything. But failure is you rooting yourself, is you positioning yourself in the ground in order to be strong enough for the future growth that you can potentially have. And so when you first plant that seed, when you first start that business, when you first pursue that dream, you are going to fail. It's not going to work. The world is not going to accept your idea. They're going to laugh at it. They're going to talk about it because they don't see any evidence of it. You planted a seed that you see no evidence of, but you still have to water it. You still have to nurture it. You still have to cultivate the soil. And then eventually that seed starts to develop itself. That gift starts to develop itself. You start to see momentum. You start to feel growth. The failures that you experienced in the past now suddenly become opportunities. You don't cower at the first sign of defeat, but you're still nurturing, you're still cultivating, you're still watering the soil, right? And then eventually that seed breaks ground and it starts to be able to develop and grow on its own. And now it sees the sunlight. Now you have help. Now you have a guiding light. Not a seed knows direction to grow in. But you got to get to that point first. You have to still put the work in. You have to cultivate the soil. You have to work. You have to nurture it. You have to go past the failures. You have to learn. You have to continue to develop yourself, right? This is how you produce the tree. This is how you bring your dreams to fruition. You have to fail on the front end. But once you break ground, now you have direction. Now you have guidance. Now you have recognized, right, the fruits of your labor, the benefits of all of your work. You start to grow in a specific direction. You start to grow upward. Now you have help. Now you have momentum. But guess what? You still haven't produced any fruit. You still don't know what you're capable of. All you know is that you're growing. All you know is that you're developing. All you know is that you're getting better every single day. You see your trajectory going upwards, but you're still planting, you're still cultivating, you're still nurturing, you're still watering that plant, and it's continuing to develop. You are producing the tree. And then it starts to grow branches, and then it starts to grow leaves, and you start to expand, and you start to grow, and you see all of this development, and you look back on your life and you're like, man, I remember when I was just a seed. I remember when I didn't have no hope. I couldn't see the light of day. And now every single day I'm growing, I'm developing, I'm branching out, I'm doing all of these things. But you put the work in, you've cultivated, you've developed. And then one day you start to produce fruit. And once that tree produces fruit, it becomes sustainable for a lifetime. Once that tree produces fruit, that fruit will replenish itself season after season after season. All of that work that you've put in up to that time, all of that cultivation, all of that watering, all of that nurturing, all of that development, now the tree is sustainable without you having to do anything. Now your talent, your ability, your gift is producing income. It is producing wealth on its own without you having to do anything. Now you don't have to get to the bag because you have produced a tree that can feed you and your family forever. We don't want to wait around for that process. But that is the process that is going to create generational wealth. That is the process that will give you economic and financial independence. That is the process that will help us collectively regain our power and control. Don't get the bag, produce the tree.